Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /entitled people, where people truly believe that the world revolves around them and nobody matters in the world. And guys, in today's episode, Karens are going absolutely wild again. And one woman makes the biggest mistake of her life when trying to get a present for her son. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the lineup today. Hit subscribe if you haven't. And as always, you can send or link your Reddit post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I decided to make an account recently, and I want to share this story that I've been holding on to for a while now. It was during the month of April. Me and my family had gone to this resort near the beachside. Now, the way the resort worked is that it was split into various buildings, building 1200, 1100, and 1000. The rooms in building 1000 were much more luxurious and expensive, being larger and closer to the sea, while the rooms in building 1200 were much more affordable, but smaller as well. My family booked a room somewhere around 1100, which wasn't too shabby. It also had access to a small river-like pool leading to the main public pool. So one day, we decide to go for a swim, and we make our way to the public pool. After a while of swimming, we decide to make our way back via the pool to our room. So we brought our towels and accessories like water guns and goggles, and we make our way slowly towards our room. Unfortunately, midway through, I cut my leg on a decorative rock they had in the pool, and my leg started to bleed and ache like crazy. So my mom decided to help bring me to our room since I had difficulty doing so. She left our towels and other items on 2 beach chairs, just at the edge of the pool, so she wouldn't have to carry them at the same time before bringing me back to the room. Now, I wasn't present for the rest of the story since I was in the hotel room, but based on my mom's retelling of it, this is what happened. My mom makes her way back to the spot she placed our items, only to find our belongings dumped on the ground. And sitting on the chairs were our suspects. One was an older man, who I'll call the entitled person, and a teenager or young adult sitting next to him, who was around 18 years old, presumably his son. My mom decides to confront them, and an argument developed within seconds. Basically, my mom says, "Excuse me, why are you sitting here, and why have our belongings been dumped on the ground?" The man says, "They were taking up the seats. Please leave. This is private property." Now, it's important to note that the chair nor the area it was taking up wasn't private property. There was a footpath behind them, which broke off to a path that led to a room, which was presumably theirs, but the footpath itself was still for anyone to use, let alone the chairs. My mom tells the guy, "This is not private property. Why did you dump our belongings?" The man repeats himself, saying that this is private property and for my mom to leave. My mom tells him again, "This is not private property, and if you don't answer me, I will contact the hotel staff." So the man continues on, insisting that this is private property and only he's allowed to be here and not us, his tone getting more and more aggressive as time went on. My mom decided it wasn't worth the effort to fight back, so she snatched up our belongings and left for our room. When she came back, she hung up the towels and went to dry off our accessories, like water guns, goggles, etc. But then she realized that the goggles we bought were missing, so she decided to make her way back and recount her steps, in hopes that she just dropped them on the way unknowingly. Eventually, she made her way back to the beach chairs, where the two were still lying down, and continued searching. And that's when the man tells her again, "This is private property. You're not allowed to be here. Leave now." My mom tells him, "I'm looking for something. Have you seen any goggles around here?" The man says, "No, we have not. Now go. This is private property." At this point, my mom was irritated, and she decided to leave frustrated, deciding it was easier to make a complaint to resort staff. So she makes her way back to the lobby, and she asks one of them to tell the guy that the seats he were claiming were his were in fact public property, and to also help find the lost goggles. So the manager came out, a tall man who we'll call the resort manager, and my mom told him the story. The manager follows her to the seats and told the guy to stop insisting that the property was his, since it's clearly not. The man, seeing that he had no choice of winning this, made his way back to his room while grumbling angrily. However, when the boy trailed behind his dad back to their room, my mom noticed that he was carrying a small bag that, among other things, had 2 goggles identical to ours inside. So she knocked on the doors of their room with the manager right behind her. And when the man answers the door, she confronts him saying, "Why do you have our goggles?" The man says, "I don't know what you mean. I didn't take anything." My mom then says, "That bag," pointing at the cloth bag sitting on the bed behind him, "has our goggles in it." The man says, "I don't know what you mean. Stop accusing me." At this point, the manager says, "If you don't show us the bag, I'll have to make a missing items report." At this point, the man grumbles, hesitantly walking towards the bag. Now, he did leave the door open enough for my mom and the manager to walk in, and they surround the bag, and lo and behold, the goggles she were looking for were sitting comfortably on top of the bag. Mom then grabs the goggles, her blood practically boiling at the attempted theft of her things. The goggles weren't cheap either, they were relatively pricey for goggles. The manager was frowning and threatening to make a police report. The man, of course, begged him not to, spewing some nonsense about finding it on the ground and taking it because no one claimed it. And that's where the story ends. Our goggles were safely returned, and we make our way back home once the holiday was over. Guys, nothing worse than idiots stealing from others, lying about it, and then defending their actions, right? Finders keepers, man. I found them on the ground. Yeah, right after you threw their stuff on the ground. Absolutely absurd. Like, way to teach your son that it's okay taking things from others. Okay, so with the new Super Mario Bros. Movie in theaters, I thought I'd share this story from when I worked at good old Wally World, back around the mid-2000s. I was filling in the electronics department. It was a slow day, and I was standing around waiting for a customer to assist. Finally, a middle-aged woman, the Karen of the story, walks in, and I approach her and asked, how can I help her? The woman replies, I want to purchase the newest Super Mario Bros. Game. I said to her, not a problem. I then led her to the Nintendo cabinet, opened it, and pulled out a copy of the game. But Karen said, no, not that one. To which I responded, ma'am, this is the newest copy of Super Mario Bros. Karen says, no, I want Super Mario for the PlayStation. At that, I inform her that Mario is a Nintendo licensed property and that it's not sold on PlayStation. And Karen responds, yes it is. I saw a commercial advertising it for PlayStation, and that's what I want to buy. Stop lying. Now, I did try my best to tell her that she didn't see a commercial advertising Mario for PlayStation, but of course, it went as well as you'd expect. She then shouts, don't you tell me what I did or didn't see. I know what I saw, and I saw a commercial advertising Mario for PlayStation, and that's what I want. I then show her the copyright logo on the game case, stating that Mario was a Nintendo licensed game, but she still refused to believe me. So I led her to the PlayStation display case and said, ma'am, this is our current selection of PlayStation games for sale. As you can see, there's no copies of Super Mario Bros. So even if you are right, we just don't carry copies of the game here. Now with this, I hope she would have just accepted that we didn't sell copies of the game for PlayStation and walk away. But if she did, I wouldn't be posting here. Instead, she starts accusing me of stealing all the copies of Mario Bros. For the PlayStation to sell online at double the cost, so I can make a profit. Dumbfounded, I asked what the heck she was basing this off of. Realizing I wasn't gonna get through to her, I then call a coworker over for assistance. I then turned to the coworker and said, hey, you don't know the conversation I've just had with this lady, right? He nods yes. I then turn to Karen and say, there is no way that I could have prompted him on what you wanted coming into the department. So with that in mind, please ask my coworker what you want. Karen then turns to my coworker and tells him that she wants the newest Super Mario Bros. On PlayStation. He tells her the same thing I did, that Mario's not sold on PlayStation consoles. Of course, she lumps my coworker into the conspiracy that the two of us must be stealing all the copies of the game for PlayStation and selling them online at double the cost because we are greedy monsters. The department manager finally sees the scene that Karen's making, and he rushes over, trying to calm her down and tell her that Super Mario Bros. Isn't sold on PlayStation, but she lumps him in on it as well. And as he's the department manager, she accused him of being the ringleader of the operation. At this point, cue the crocodile tears as she says, all I wanted to do was buy a copy of Super Mario for the PlayStation for my son's birthday. But you monsters have ruined his and countless other children's birthdays by stealing the game from the store, so you could sell them online at double the cost. Well, Walmart has lost a valued customer today. I'm gonna go to another store, find a copy of Super Mario Bros. For the PlayStation, bring it back here, and expose you all. At that, Karen began storming off, but I couldn't let her get the last word in, so I yell back, ma'am, go ahead and try to find a copy of Super Mario Bros. For the PlayStation. If you can, bring it back here and I will give you my next paycheck. So needless to say, we never saw or heard from her again. I guess she wasn't able to find Super Mario Bros. For the PlayStation after all. Guys, I love it when people use the good old, "you've ruined my son's birthday." No, I believe you've ruined your own son's birthday by not planning ahead and making sure you can get your hands on whatever it is he wants. And listen guys, I've had a similar encounter a long time ago where this adorable old lady asked me one time to help her find the game Halo on Nintendo while I was browsing Best Buy. And you know what happened? I told her, "That's not on Nintendo, it's on Xbox only." And the woman responded by saying, "Oh, well I guess I'm buying an Xbox today, aren't I?" But yeah, she never accused the store of something as absurd as this Karen. And guys, while we're on the topic of video games, listen to this story. So about 18 years ago, I worked at the main video game retailer in the UK. It wasn't a bad job, but like anything where you have to deal with the public, it came with some crap moments. This one was early December when Xbox 360 came out. Like most console launches, we were running on a pre-order only system. The only stock we received had been reserved by customers with a small deposit, like £20 I think. Now, because the launch was in December, the Xbox was a must-have Christmas gift, and it made people go a little crazy. I think anyone who's had to deal with pre-orders at retail knows where this is going. Our store opened at 9 a.m. The first thing we see once the complex opens is a woman sprinting up to our door and frantically pulling on the handles. We let her know through the door that we don't open until 9 a.m. At this point, she's fairly reasonable. She says okay and she waits. Over the next 15 minutes, a small line forms behind her of people who are here for their consoles. As you probably expected, she didn't have a pre-order. Her response to finding out that she couldn't buy an Xbox was to scream at us, threaten us, yell about false advertising, and eventually yells how she was going to our competitor to buy one since they have some decency. Well, we knew she wasn't going to have any success there either. The problem being that the console was a pre-order basically everywhere. About an hour later, she comes back to the store and we're all braced for impact, but she just starts browsing, which was a surprise. We didn't realize what she was up to until one of our latecomers comes to pick up their console. As soon as they left the counter and headed for the door, the entitled woman dashes over to them and she starts talking to them. We didn't know what she was doing at first, but it turns out she was offering to buy the console at an elevated price. The woman she spoke to wasn't interested. She was an older woman, and she had one of those wheelie shopping bags that every other woman in England seems to have. This becomes relevant later. Now, this is where Karen really screws up. So not taking no for an answer, she suddenly pushes the woman, grabs the bag, and runs. She didn't get far because we always had security guards around on launch days. She got about 20 feet out of the shop before the guy grabs her and brings her back. When they called the police, we were all kind of expecting her to be arrested for theft, like all the times we had to call about shoplifters. But nope, it turns out the woman she stole from had done other Christmas shopping that morning. She'd bought jewelry, other small electronics, all sorts, and the goods in her bags totaled over £2,000. And because the entitled woman had pushed her to get the bag off her, it was officially robbery, not theft. Robbery for a relatively high value of goods too. Now it may not sound like a big distinction, but legally it's pretty massive. We were told by the security guard later, who heard it from the arresting officer, that she was able to get the charge reduced to theft as long as she pled guilty. This got her 1 year in prison and some period of supervision. Now that's pretty light for robbery, but pretty heavy for forgetting to pre-order. Guys, what a huge mistake that was. Like I've said this before, Christmas season does bring out the worst in people, guys. And seriously, I'd rather go home empty-handed telling my kids or whoever that I couldn't get an Xbox rather than daddy's gotta go to jail. And guys, what absolutely kills me is that the Xbox 360 was released on December 2nd, 2005 in the UK. Like if that woman was willing to pay an elevated price, she had more than enough time to eBay one in time for Christmas. But instead, she chose to rob someone and she paid the ultimate price. Alright, for some context, I've been working at a BPO since June 2021. I was offered to join a new campaign since October 2022 and eventually joined. In addition, I requested vacations last December. as I was gonna spend Christmas and New Year's Eve with my family, as per usual, which of course they were approved. Now on to the main story. I returned from these vacations at the start of January and everything went fine. However, as soon as I returned, I was informed by management that the team I was working for had been shuffled, because all the work teams are to be shuffled every 4 months, as per the client's order. Now that wasn't a problem. I was assigned new workmates, which would have been fine, until I met my new supervisor. The name was Rhonda. She was slightly blonde, a bit chubby, and she had a grin that said she was friendly, but I was stupid to fall for this. As soon as Rhonda introduced herself as the new supervisor, she mentioned something along the lines of, "If there's something I care a lot, it's about your salary. Anything wrong with your payroll, let me know." Again, there came the boring game of having to introduce ourselves to the entire team. So it was my turn, and it went like, "My name's Eric, nice to meet ya," before sitting back down. But then Rhonda retorted, "Nice to meet ya, Cedric." I was told by other workmates at the time that Rhonda sucked at remembering names, so I just let it pass at the time. So days went by, and whenever I was called for coachings and whatnot, Rhonda would continue calling me Cedric. I told her my name's Eric several times, but she seemed to throw the exact same "I can't remember your name correctly" card excuse every time. It was a bit funny at the start, but eventually it became a nuisance, and I started to believe that she was calling me another name on purpose. One day, I had a coaching session with Rhonda. It was about the time I had to put a stop to this nuisance. So following the coaching, I asked her why she was constantly calling me another name, because it was no longer funny. At first, she tried to play dumb and attempted to use the same excuse. I cut her off, looked at her dead in the eye, and I told her, "I know you're just messing with me, so stop, because it's not funny anymore." So hearing me say that, Rhonda dropped her dumb facade, and she replies, "Oh, you got me. It's simply because your face doesn't look like an Eric." And I'm thinking, what the F? You're just messing with me because I don't look like my name suits me? I then returned to my workplace after leering at Rhonda because of her ridiculous game. So enter February, and Rhonda seems like she hasn't gotten the hint because she kept on effing with me. So I have the habit of double checking my payroll, and when I checked it, I noticed the day I worked was marked as a day off. Again, I was a bit shocked, and I was about to ask Rhonda what was happening. But before I could even go to her place, she informs us that there had been an outage with the payroll system, and everybody on my team would appear as a day off for the day. Hearing that, I was a bit relieved. And the next day, it seemed that everyone's payroll was fixed, everyone but me. It was my second day, and I was being marked as a day off. Having a gut feeling that there was something off with my payroll, I went to Rhonda, and I asked why wasn't my payroll fixed. She said, "Sorry, Cedric. It seems that there's a few other agents that are still having problems with payroll, but your salary's gonna be fine. Trust me. And oh, don't you ever tell another supervisor about this, okay?" Now that one sentence did feel like a red flag to me, and I thought, hold your horses. There's something wrong here. So the third day came, and again, I was marked as a day off. But this time, I wasn't having it. While Rhonda was out to lunch, I went and asked for Jack, my former supervisor. I asked him what's happening with my 3 days of missing work. Jack then revealed that everyone's payroll was fixed shortly after the first day's shift ended. However, Rhonda had not only lied to me, she was stealing my payroll money. The bad news is that he had to send an email to the shift manager. The next day, the fourth day, I checked my payroll once again and it's finally fixed. In a matter of coincidence, it was Rhonda's day off. It was at this time when Jack approached me and we had another talk. Jack went like, "Got it, we got your payroll fixed." But there was a problem. The shift manager also sent a copy of the email to Rhonda. I'm sorry for that. I replied, "Don't worry about it. I'll deal with Rhonda on my own. Thank you." So come Friday, I was sitting in my workplace doing my thing when Rhonda approaches me and she's boiling mad. Rhonda screams at me saying, "I told you not to tell anybody about this, you moron." I then stand up, looked Rhonda dead in the eye and said, "Not only do you continue to disrespect me, not only do you lie to me, you tried to steal my salary. What the F is wrong with you?" At that, Rhonda gets pissed and she yells, "That's it. I'm gonna get you fired for this." I became already stressed out from the altercation, so I told my team lead that I was gonna take a cigarette break. Following the break, I continued doing my own business and nothing happened. 2 days off later, I come back to work, and I noticed that Rhonda hadn't come into work. At this time, the shift manager calls me into his office. As soon as I entered and sat down, I saw Jack already there. It was at this point I was told that Rhonda was fired. It turns out that more evidence was found, and she had a lot of escalations over her head, as she had always felt as if she was entitled to bully her own agents. In addition, the company filed a lawsuit against her for fraudulent activity. Guys, this is a prime example of F around, and you'll find out. And the funny thing is, she thought she could get away with this, like for how long? And seriously, she was so not smart, because when you tell someone, you'd better not tell anyone about this, and that person happens to not like you, that's just asking for it. Like, guys, I would absolutely love to see the outcome to this. She deserves everything that comes her way. With all that said, like, what a weird thing to do, though. You don't look like an Eric, so I'll call you Cedric. My response would have been, you don't look like a Rhonda. Your face looks more like a Ron. Guys, I'm kidding, I'm not that mean, but that would have been the funny response to that, and that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's absurd stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss these wild stories. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, it's an r/I don't work here lady, where Karen's convinced that OP's a nurse and demands she serve her daughter. It's a wild story, so go check it out, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.